Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SLAPcast. This is another episode of our coverage of the 2023-24 season. I'm your host, Gage, as usual, and what a weekend it was in the Premier League. We're back to recording earlier in the week, so hopefully all of you listening at home will have some more time to enjoy our dulcet tones this week. Before we get started, let's say hello to the fellas. First of all, we've got to say hello to our resident member of the Crystal Palace faithful and a guy who I would bet a significant amount of money has listened to The Cure in the past week. Ethan, it's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. It's funny that you said that because that's a sneak peek for later.
No way.
Ooh.
I'm
Is
serious.
it actually?
Yeah.
Dude, that's
That is
crazy.
so weird.
We're on the wave. Dude,
I know, yeah.
okay,
That's crazy. I can't believe that. Oh, yeah. This too, yeah. The Cure bucket hat.
Well, next up, we have a guy who hates the referees, loves a bit of tactical chat, and probably feels relatively indifferent towards The Cure. And that's Reese. Hello, Reese.
I am relatively indifferent to The Cure.
Finally, a guy who's been sending us unsolicited wiener pics all weekend and probably doesn't even know who The Cure is.
I know. I like The Cure. I can't name any of their songs, but I like The Cure.
Josh, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, more importantly, actually, how is Vienna? The
Vienna
new dog.
Good. So we got a little wiener dog this weekend. She's a little baby, and she's like 3 pounds, and she's like the size of my forearm. She's so small, but she's so cute.
Now tell us about the dog.
But she's cute, and she is right now decently potty trained. Like when she wakes up from a nap or like gets taken out of her crate when we get home, we take her outside and she squats and she just stares at us like waiting for the treat to appear, which I don't care if it's food driven right now. We're getting the point across.
Once again, tell us about the dog now.
Well, Josh, to answer your question, I'm feeling good. And admittedly, only listened to The Cure today at work because I knew they were going to feature heavily in the intro, which is absolutely insane wavelengthness by me and Ethan, as we're going to discover later, I think. So we seriously did not plan that. It might seem like we did, but we
didn't. That blowed my mind.
So, Josh, let's go ahead and get things rolling with the question of the day.
Stay dog themed here.
Of course.
We're going to go, what is your favorite breed of dog? Which Gage is probably the easiest.
Yeah, Gage you go first.
Yeah, everyone knows mine. I think, well, the listeners probably won't, but everyone who knows me knows that mine is Australian Shepherd because I had one growing up and she was my third birthday present. And she passed away when I was 19. So we grew up together. She was pretty much there every step of the way through my childhood, and she was the best dog ever. So yeah, Australian Shepherds are my favorite dogs.
I don't know if I have a favorite. Sorry, Ethan.
I
don't know if I have a favorite breed, just because I have so many allergies to both cats and dogs that like my options are extremely limited to hypoallergenic. So Bella is my favorite type of dog. That's what I say.
And fuck
She's
Pepper,
been on the podcast. Pepper is Ethan. I love Pepper. She's my brother's dog.
Not mine.
They're both over here actually.
Pepper's also a bit of a shit.
Oh my god, shaky cam. They're right behind me. They're sleeping.
Pepper is super sweet, but she is such a shithead sometimes.
She is. She really is.
She's a good poser.
You were a good photographer.
Oh, you know.
Shout out Ethan's photography page.
Oh, you know.
Featuring Godzilla.
Yeah, literally today I went to go work out outside and there was a big ass lizard. And so I just took photos of it, and Pepper just decided to pose really good. So I took photos of her as well. But you know, I've only ever had small dogs within my family. So I'm a big fan of hound dogs. My grandpa had a beagle for the longest time. I think it passed away maybe like 2015. So it's been a while, but I'd always planned about, you know, whenever I have more money and a reliable way to take care of a dog, to either get like a basset hound, a beagle, or a bloodhound or something like that. Just because I like how they howl, and you know, people are like, that's awful, you know, it's the worst thing about them, but I think it's cute.
God, imagine a Beagle and Bella combination would be awful.
No, I don't. Surely it won't happen while Reese and I
Bella's
are still living
old
together. But
as well.
Yeah. So we're the opposite. We always had big dogs growing up. So I had boxers or labs. So like labs usually are my favorite. But then Olivia's family has only had wiener dogs for the most part. And she was very insistent on getting a wiener dog because she's not that she's uncomfortable around big dogs, but she just like doesn't prefer them. So we're slowly hopping on the wiener dog train. So we'll see. That was probably going to change as the end of it grows up. But yeah, she's being cute right now.
Okay. Folks, if you caught last week's episode, you'll know that our mystery segment of the week was Smart Signing Central, where we paid homage to the quickly adjourning transfer window by procuring some smart signings for various Premier League clubs to make before the transfer window does come to an end. This week, we have flipped the script, and it is Shitty Signing Central. We've each picked 4 signings, our sort of reverse Mount Rushmore, if you will, of shitty Premier League signings in recent years. Now, I want to put forward that there was a stipulation attached to this, that the transfer had to have happened at least 2 years ago to avoid some of the more predictable answers. But I know that at least one of you, 2 guesses who that is, decided to tell me to take that stipulation and shove it where the sun don't shine. So, for the time being, this is going to be a little bit more freeform here. So let's just start off with somebody giving us a name and giving us some reasoning for why you think they're a shitty signing. And I'm going to let Dipshit go first because we already know.
Okay, I'm not doing mine. Before I do my first one, honorable mention the move trick. But
okay, thank you.
In similar fashion, I have Saudio Berahino to West Brom. He got sold, so he had 0 goals for Stoke, the season before he got sold. And then somehow they convinced West Brom to buy him for like £16 million, to which he also did not score a goal the next season. So that one's pretty bad.
That's a great pick, Josh.
I went
not at all where I thought you'd go.
That's a great pick,
go?
Except for the fact that he went from West Brom to Stoke and not from Stoke to West Brom.
I thought he went to. Did he?
I just looked and checked because I was curious, but the point still stands either way. I mean, your point does still stand. And then they immediately got relegated. Actually, Stoke did. So shout out to them for that signing.
He just scored 3 goals in the championship.
Hey, there you go. That's not nothing.
Something, yeah.
My first pick is unoriginal, but I have to say it when I'm given the outlet, and that's Harry Maguire.
I knew it, yeah.
I knew it was coming.
£90 million for this guy who, let me say once again, was worse than Mustafi in Mustafi's worst year. Now, will I pull up that statistic? No, I'm lazy. Is it possibly propaganda? Maybe. I'm going to keep saying it, though.
Wasn't that when he was at Leicester, too? That was before.
Yes, it was when he was at Leicester.
Yeah.
I still say that he was not that bad on the eye test, which is also an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I do agree, Josh. And I think he's always played well for England. But I will admit, United probably got it wrong. Most expensive defender in the world.
Yeah.
Probably not worth that.
The him and Fofana sales are insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a good segue, actually, from another bad purchase from Leicester, because I have put this player on my list, and that is Danny Drinkwater to Chelsea.
I had that one.
Did you really? Both of you guys did. So I'll give my reasoning first, and then you guys can chime in after if you have an additional. Summer of 2017, £35 million move to Chelsea. He was at Chelsea for 5 seasons. He averaged 1 start per season.
And he wasn't even injured.
No, he was just horrible. I wrote down here, might be the sharpest drop-off in quality after a transfer ever. Even when he was reunited with his midfield partner in the title-winning season at Leicester and N'Golo Kante, still just one of the worst drop-offs I've ever seen. Followed by horrific loan spells at Burnley, Aston Villa, Kazim Pasha, and Reading, where he put together a combined 26 appearances, including Reading, who finished 21st in the championship during his full season there. So, yeah, shout out to him.
He tried to sell himself to Leicester this summer. He was like, I'd love to bring some like old leadership and old blood to the club. And Enzo said, no, not no.
Yeah, since leaving Chelsea in summer of 2022 after the expiration of his contract, he has been a free agent, and he's only 33. So it's not like he's ancient. It's just that he was horrific for all 5 years that he was on the books at Chelsea. So
I've gone from one that he's just, it's so random. Jean-Philippe Gbamin for Everton, who joined them for 25 million in the 2019-2020 season. Managed to play 6 times for Everton. He got hurt after the first game that he signed when he played Palace. And then, so he only played 6 times and then went out on loan to CSK Moscow and Trabzonspor, and still on the Everton books, but only have played 6 times.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's in 3 years.
Yeah.
I have more Everton slander with my next one.
Keep it going.
Yannick Bolasie for 26
million. Yeah, you want to try that first name again?
Wait. Yannick Bolasie. My bad. I added an A. Yannick Bolasie for 26 million pounds, who he made 29 league appearances in 5 years for Everton, scored 2 goals. He's retired now, but when he went to Turkey, he put in one of the worst two-footer challenges that he got a straight red and additional games suspended from the Turkish FA after the tackle. So you leave Palace, you go into the mud, basically.
Yeah, you should have stayed.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, we definitely got the good end of it because we got all that money for him at the time. But yes, he was one of the reasons I fell in love with the club. So I feel bad that his career did not go as well as it should have. But
can I piggyback on the Everton slander again?
Go. Go.
I've got another Everton midfielder in the mix, and that's Davy Klaassen.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Signing in history. 28 million pounds in the summer of 2017, which, you know, you might look at that figure now and balk at it and think, wow, that's nothing. But back before the days of Neymar and the Saudi League and
really before the Chinese League
too, back before those days, that was a pretty hefty fee. So you got to consider that when you're taking that into account. He managed to disappoint 3 Everton managers in the same season. Ronald Koeman, who brought him in, started him for the first 4 games and promptly dropped him from the side. He then didn't make another appearance until March 2018 because he failed to impress Sam Allardyce and Marco Silva, both of whom were there in the same season. He made only 7 appearances, 4 of which were those starts that I just mentioned. Everton only recouped a tiny percentage of the deal whenever he went to Werder Bremen on a cut price. And really, I included this one just as, you know, as you've seen with the last 2 points that have been mentioned by the guys as well, is it's just symbolic of Everton's horrible recruitment for the last decade. Lots of random 20 to 40 million pound signings that don't pan out in any way, shape, or form. So
Reese.
I've gone for a pick here who it's when I say it, you'll be like, well, yeah, that's kind of obvious. But I just have some really funny stats written down that I think are hilarious. And that's Lukaku's return to Chelsea. Signed for almost, or maybe even 100 million pounds. Scores 8 goals that season. He bashes the club and goes out on loan for an 8 million pound loan fee. He is now back at the club. And still on wages, which, by the way, are 325,000 pounds a week.
Feeling a living.
Update as of today, he's joining Roma on loan for they're paying 7 million pounds total of his wages, which by the way, for the year, he makes 17 million in a year. So, and then he'll be on the books presumably next year as well. I don't know when his contract is up, but
And he's reuniting with Chelsea legend and shithouse Jose Mourinho at Roma,
yeah.
just to rub salt in the wound. So
The main thing I thought was unbelievable is that he's making 325,000 pounds a week.
I have more slander directed mostly at United, but Chelsea's also going to take a rather large slap in the face. So I really like this player generally, but ever since he went on loan to United in the first season, I watched the Premier League. Falcao, who was a goal-scoring machine in Argentina, Portugal, Spain, and Monaco before going on loan to United and scoring 4 goals the whole season, and then the next season going to Chelsea and scoring 1, and then went back to Monaco, was great after they were great with their youngsters, and then is now playing in the Spanish league and is just kind of existing.
I was going to say, I just looked up his Wikipedia. I didn't realize he was still playing.
He plays for Vallecano. I think he scored against Cadiz last year, or I remember him playing at least. But yeah, was good in Galatasaray. But also, he seems like a nice player, but no, was awful after the United happened.
I've got another United one. I've gone for Donny van de Beek.
I've got him too. I've got him too.
For 40 million, he's only played 34 games out of 3 seasons and 2 goals, which I mean, don't compare it to the amount of time time he spent on the bench. Went on loan to Everton, so that's another shot at Everton. He only played 7 games and scored 1 goal.
I want to point out too, by the way, he made 34 appearances for United, but only 6 of those were starts.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, he was signed originally to be an upgrade on McFred, I think, whenever this was going on. But for some reason, when he came in, Solskjaer pulled out the military grade duct tape and attached him to the bench, where he remained for the rest of Ole's tenure, pretty much.
And the weird thing about it is that they've got someone who's worked with Ajax Academy and is from the Netherlands, and they just don't want to. He wants nothing to do with him.
Is he? And I think he played under Ten Hag.
I think he did,
because I remember he scored against Spurs in the famous Lucas Moura tie, and Ten Hag was the manager at that time, so he played under him at Ajax.
Yeah, I just don't know what's going on with him.
Is he linked to a move anywhere?
Nope.
Has anyone seen anything about him?
Nope.
Because I looked to check, and he's not even been on the bench for any of their games so far.
He's just rotting in their reserves.
Yeah, I don't really understand what the deal is with that. I made a list of midfielders that were at the club whenever they signed him, and this just goes to show Man United's recruitment has also been pretty shite in the last few years, because listen to this list of midfielders. Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, who was still playing at the time, by the way, Scott McTominay, Fred, Nemanja Matic, and Juan Mata, all of whom made more appearances that season than Donny van de Beek when he was signed. So why did they need to sign him? Why did they need to make a 40 million pound outlay just to bring in a body to fill out the squad numbers? I don't really understand the thought process on that signing. So because I'm down to my last one here. So if anyone else has a few more to get out of the way.
Y'all mind if I hate on Arsenal for a moment?
Wow. Okay.
What's crazy to me about this signing, I just wanted to dig this up from y'all's memories and remind y'all about the tragedy of Darth Lichtsteiner, who we signed for free, and I wish we had paid another club to take him, because I genuinely, I seriously think he is maybe the worst player to ever play for the club ever, to the point where there was games where it looked like he was sabotaging us on purpose.
He's got the Paquetá, the money line on the other team.
Yes. Except it wasn't even subtle. I don't genuinely believe this conspiracy that he was out to get us. I just think he was playing so poorly for us that it looked like he was just on the other team and he was trying to score on his own team.
Wasn't he also fairly deep into like his 30s.
Yes, but we played him a lot for some reason.
Who played? Was that Unai?
It was the end of
Um,
Wenger, right? Up to
I thought it was the
I
beginning of Unai.
think. Oh, that's a great question. I really hope it wasn't the end of Wenger.
I don't think it was.
I think it was Unai. I'm googling to find out.
while you do that, I was gonna say, because I wanted so desperately to find a horrible signing that Arsenal have made in the last like 7 or 8 years to put it in this list, just because I'm a shithead. But I was going through, and like the worst signing I could find. I understand you saying Lichtsteiner. I mean, it was a free though. So at
Lichtsteiner
least-
was Unai Emery's first signing at the club.
Ooh. Yeah, that's not a great look. But I was gonna say, like, yeah, it was a bad signing, but at least he was on a free. At least it wasn't an exorbitant fee. But
Yeah, I mainly
my
just
next
brought it up
option
just
was
because it was hilarious.
oh, it is funny. But my next option was Nico Pepe, and even he, like, as exorbitant as the fee was, he scored 16 goals.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
comparatively, looking back for sure, like, I mean, I don't think he was a successful signing by any means, but comparing him to the other players of similar transfer fees, right? We've got Anthony, we've got Jaden. They're all United players. Anthony, Jaden Sancho, Mudryk for Chelsea. All of these players who were more expensive and like significantly less productive, not only just in their first season, but like Jaden Sancho in all of his seasons at United, less productive than Pepe in his first season at Arsenal by a lot.
Partially due to the fact that he's randomly been stuck on the bench again, like
Yeah.
more questionable United decisions, but still. No, I do agree. But my point about that was I honestly had a hard time finding a bad Arsenal signing in recent years. There were a few random loans, but nothing like
Well,
nothing
Dennis
super out of the
Suarez.
ordinary. Yeah. Dennis Suarez jump scare when I was looking through the Wikipedia page.
That was
too.
Unai Emery as well.
Yeah.
I have more United slander for my last
Let's
one.
go.
From the
Let's
same
go.
season. I have Di Maria, who at the time was the
Dude.
third most expensive transfer, only behind Ronaldo and Bale, for almost 70 million pounds. Scored 3 goals,
Wow.
and then went to PSG, did okay. Went to Juventus, did okay. Did great in the World Cup when he showed, but like, and now was just tearing it up in the Portuguese league for Benfica. So,
At the time, he was the most expensive fee ever paid by a Premier League club. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember when this happened because it was right around when all of us started watching. He was like infamously considered to be one of the best players that wasn't playing in the Premier League because, he played for Real Madrid. He had lots of success there. He, went on to play for PSG for many years and did really well there. But I guess he just wasn't really fit for the Premier League. And United had to suffer a huge outlay for it. So good point by you, Josh. Well, Reese hated on Arsenal, so allow me to hate on Spurs real quick. There were a number that I could have picked from the Mourinho era, like that kind of generation of signings, but I've picked one that maybe financially is not the worst thing I've ever seen, but just in terms of where the club was at and what it represents is one of the worst signings that Spurs have ever made. That is Gedson Fernandez on an 18-month loan with a £5 million loan fee. Obviously, the monetary outlay is not huge, but following a season where our signings were Ndombele, Lo Celso, Sessegnon, Clark, and Bergwijn, by the way, none of whom panned out in a meaningful way, maybe apart from Bergwijn a little bit. Lo Celso did spawn in like an NPC in the most recent game, by the way. But an option to purchase Gedson Fernandez at £60 million for an attacking midfielder with 0 senior goals to his name. That's actually true. The guy had never scored a senior goal, and he had a £60 million future fee clause in his loan. 0 Premier League starts for Spurs in a 12-month spell where literally over half of the squad spent time on the injured list. Guy couldn't get a start. Had his loan terminated and has now played for 3 clubs in the Turkish Super League. And really just stunk of the incestual relationship between douchebag manager Jose Mourinho and super agent, super douche George Mendes. That era of Spurs. So, yeah, shout out to them for an excellent recruitment decision, bringing in Jedson Fernandez.
I have a very random one that just was so weird and it just did not pan out at all. I've gone for Rian Brewster
Oh, that's a great shout.
to Sheffield United for 24 million pounds. And let me drop some stats on you. He signed the season after I forgot what position they got, but they did really good. It was the season they went down.
Ninth.
He played,
Yeah, they got top
ninth.
10.
He started, or not started, but he played 27 games the season they got relegated and scored 0, a big fat goose egg.
Ooh,
And then once he played in the championship since then with them, in the 2021-2022 season, played 14 games, scored 3 goals. And then last season in the championship again, played 16 and scored 1. That's just a bad return for a striker.
And I'm guessing he hasn't appeared. He's still on the books, yeah? Or
I think so.
I'm guessing he hasn't appeared in the league so far because I've heard no tell of him whatsoever.
No, yeah. So, yeah, I just thought that one was insane.
Anyone else have a final
I've got
signing?
one more.
All right.
Just throwback to when Kepa was signed for Chelsea
Okay.
for 80 million pounds. The main attraction for this, once again, is some stats that I have pulled because I knew he was bad, but oh my God, when I was looking into this, I was like, because at first I was like, I don't really want to put him. I've already got some other, like pretty obvious picks, but I was like, I have to put him in here. This is insane. He's just recently gone on loan for a £1 million fee, by the way. 1 million signed for 80. 163 Chelsea appearances. I want somebody to take a guess how many goals he's conceded.
163.
I'm gonna say 145.
I'll go 210.
Josh is the closest, and you're not high enough. It's 175.
Oh my God.
Let's take a look at just Premier League alone. 109 appearances. And I won't make you guess this time. 129 goals conceded.
Oh my
So both in the Prem and in all competitions, he has conceded more than he has played for the club.
And he was involved in that bizarre incident where Maurizio Sarri was trying to sub him off. Wasn't that in a final?
Yeah, it was.
For Caballero.
And they lost, I believe.
On penalties.
Yeah. Because Caballero, not only is he good at penalties, he also was from City.
And Kepa was injured.
Yeah.
He'd injured himself. What a bizarre circumstance. Yeah.
Where did they win that
Real
game? I can't remember. That was the one where he had that crazy save where he just sat on the ball with his knee.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they won or not. I don't know. That was still weird though.
I think it was the League Cup, which means City probably won. But
I think they won because that was the most. If he had stayed on and they had won, I don't think it would have been talked about that much.
Yeah, that's true. Is he going to start at Real Madrid? Does anyone know?
Yeah,
probably because Courtois, ACL,
he let in a few goals in a few minutes on his debut. I think
Kepa did.
I think so. I think we had this conversation.
I think he had his debut this weekend. Let me check.
That's great.
Yeah, Courtois injured, so he was an emergency signing.
Don't they still have? Oh no, they don't. I was gonna say, don't they still have Keylor Navas on their books? But I think he's on the books at PSG.
Wasn't it?
Because he was on loan at Forest.
Yeah,
but then
I was about to say Forest, but I was like, no, it's a loan.
No, he was on loan. Yeah, but yeah, him and Dean Henderson on loan at Forest at the same time. How random.
Well,
Wayne Hennessy still probably played the most games out of any goalkeeper at the club.
Kepa kept a clean sheet, but it was also against Celta Vigo, who has 0 points this season.
I thought those stats were unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. The 129 and 109 in the Prem is crazy. That's a ridiculous stat line.
For 80
it goes to show how bad Chelsea have been as well, but still,
it's crazy.
Who's their backup goalie now?
Chelsea?
It's probably some young guy. No, Real Madrid.
Oh.
Is everyone gone?
I'm out. I'm out of
I'm
players.
done.
Yeah.
Josh, you done? Okay. I'm done too, but I need to talk about this because it blew my mind, and I didn't know if you guys were aware. But I'll take you back to 2020. Do y'all remember the name Jean-Kevin Augustin?
I do, but I can't remember why. I know did he play for Augsburg?
He played for Leipzig.
Did he
Okay,
sign
okay.
for like Burnley or something, right?
Okay, so what happened was, and this was like weird because I had looked at Transfermarkt and it listed on the season that Leeds got promoted. But this is what happened. So the season where Leeds got promoted, was the season in the championship where they got enough points. I think they won the league actually. They had signed him on loan from Leipzig. He only played 3 games and then got hurt. But Bielsa sent him back to Leipzig and he stayed there and never got fit until the next season. Apparently, there was an obligation to buy that they didn't know about. And so they fought about this a lot and ended up to the point where Leeds were forced to pay almost 20 million for the guy, and he ended up not staying with them. Like, I think they like waited out his contract or something, and he ended up like joining Non the next season in France. So they just paid 20 million for someone who didn't stay with them
And hardly played at all.
Yeah, played 3 games, didn't score a single goal. I literally saw this and I was like, that's why it said that they had signed him, because they had to pay 20 million for him. But that's so crazy.
But how do you not know about an obligation to buy?
Yeah.
Somebody got fired for that.
For sure. And 20 million is just crazy in today's market.
And they
to
were in
not
the
keep him-
championship when they
I
signed
know.
that deal.
I know. I saw it and I was like, I cannot believe that. So I just thought that was insane.
That is crazy.
Like, it went to the court of arbitration for sport. It was ridiculous. Like, I was obsessed with this, reading about it earlier.
I totally forgot that I think I have some vague recollection of it happening. But
Yeah.
just
It was insane
stuff.
Just reading about it was crazy.
Good find by you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along from shitty signing central, where there was lots of shit plastered on the walls everywhere, just everywhere. Some disastrous transfer business all across the board, but thankfully, for me at least, we're going to move on to some brighter things because, of course, we are going to go through a few of the games in chronological order. Shout out to Chelsea, who finally have their first win of the season over a team who is probably going to finish the league season with 0 points, the way things are going right now. So shout out to them. But we are, of course, going to talk about Bournemouth losing 2-0 at home to Spurs. I won't regale you all with too much more, stroking off of various aspects of the Spurs squad, because I've done enough of that over the last couple of episodes. But I do want to point out a couple different things. Number one, I want to give the spotlight. Last week it was to Yves Bissouma. This week it is to James Maddison, who I knew he was good. And
Don't do it.
I knew he was good, and I watched him a good amount at Leicester, obviously. But it seems to me like, and maybe Josh, you can correct me on this, but it seems to me like he's reached a new level after this transfer. Like
Josh is like the Snapchat like Bitmoji.
You're typing. He's typing.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just saying it looks like he's reached another level after the move, because something about him maybe not having to be the number one guy, I think, because at Leicester in the last few seasons, because Vardy's kind of been on the decline. A few of their other big players had left after the title winning season. So Maddison was the guy at Leicester for a long time. And I think maybe now that he doesn't quite have to be so centrally, solely integral to a team, I think it's just elevated his game to another level.
He doesn't get triple man marked, and he has a competent coach. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, that helps a lot for sure. And one of the things that I really wasn't expecting, by the way, is like his leadership qualities are off the charts. I mean, I think, a lot was made about him being made the vice captain. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, he's fresh blood, like kind of, new guy on the block, has good morale boosting qualities. But like every game so far, before the game, he goes around to every single member of the starting 11 and gives them like a hug or a handshake or a tap on the shoulder and, says a few words to him just to like bolster confidence and stuff. It's just some stuff that you like. I feel like you don't see it too often, but the fact that I've noticed it every single time, I think goes to show like how integral he already is to the squad in spite of only being here for a couple months. So there was also a moment which made me smile. It's all over Twitter and TikTok and everything else where the Bournemouth, he was going over to take a corner in front of the Bournemouth fans and they're singing Southgate's right, you're fucking shite to him. And he is about to take the corner, promptly goes over, moves the ball off the corner quadrant and puts it about a foot off the corner quadrant as he's preparing to take the corner. And the Bournemouth fans obviously light up. They start giving it to him. But then as they start like quieting down a little bit, you can hear people in the background going like, oh, he's a good lad, or like, oh, what a guy, or like something like that. So just kind of makes me smile a little bit that we have some personality back in the squad. Because, for a long time, our talisman main man, some guy named Kane, I don't know exactly. I'm not too sure, what he did for the, no, I'm just kidding. But, not a lot of personality, it has to be said. So it's nice to have a little bit of, personality and spice back into the squad for one of our main men. So
I've been really impressed with players who, I didn't expect this season to kind of, do as well as they've done so far. Like you've talked about Sarr last time. I've been impressed with Udoji, or however you say his name.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
This guy, man, I cannot believe he's 20 years old. He looks like he's been playing in the Prem for 5 or 6 seasons. I mean, he just knows how to get involved in the play, combines, makes nice 1-2s across the left side. I mean, the guy, like every time I look up, the guy seems like he's in the penalty box, like the opposition penalty box. Like he just loves to get forward. He's so direct, so attacking. The second goal basically came strictly from his making. I mean, he comes up the wing, plays a 1-2 with Perisic, plays a 1-2 with Son, and then, stretches at the last possible moment and gets in across past the defenders to Kulusevski for the goal. So I've just been so impressed. I can't believe that the guy is only 20 years old. Of course, there's going to be slip-ups. There's going to be mistakes because he's so young. But so far, so perfect as far as I'm concerned.
What were your thoughts on Lo Celso when he came on? Because he's been very hit or miss for his tenure at Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I think he just kind of spawned in a little bit. One thing I will say about this topic quickly before I move on to Lo Celso himself is I was very impressed with the timing of the substitutions. I thought, he just made simple changes at the right time. And one of those involved, rotating Maddison, who had struggled with injury for a time, and bringing Lo Celso into that role, which I think, if we're not going to sign another midfielder and Lo Celso decides to stay, I think it could work. I mean, he had a short cameo, so there's not a ton to point out. Like, I don't have really any standout moments that come to mind, but he did have a few involvements where he got into good positions and just couldn't quite find the final ball. But as far as him being a sort of deputy option to the Maddison role, that creative midfielder who's going to arrive on the edge of the box, which was something that I think he really specialized at in his time with Betis, before we signed him. I think that could be a perfect role for him. So if someone is going to revitalize his career at Spurs, I think it would be Postecoglou with this new system. So I'll be interested to see. I think Maddison probably shouldn't start against Fulham tomorrow or today as the episode will come out. I think I would like to see some rotation, especially because Maddison was struggling with a slight injury in the last week. So I'd be interested to see if he starts against Fulham, and then I'll be able to give you a really, comprehensive read on his performance there. So
another midfielder Ethan mentioned, Sarr, had another great game.
Yeah.
What happens when Bentancur is back? Because now Sarr has given Postecoglou such a big problem, which is a good problem to have, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
So I think what my strategy personally would be, and I can't really speak for Postecoglou, I would probably leave Sarr in the team until he gives a performance that warrants him being dropped. I think for him right now, it's purely a meritocracy because, I mean, he's been running the show in midfield with Bissouma and Maddison. He had a great assist for Maddison's goal. Really clever ball through the lines. So for me, I think it's going to be a case of, yeah, he's going to stay in the team until he, puts in a performance, and he will, because again, he's young and he's inexperienced. So there will come times when he gets dominated in the midfield area. Until then, I think you just bring Bentancur back in. Of course, it's a long-term injury that takes a long time to recover from. So, what you could see is Bentancur starts integrating into the team. Maybe at the 75th minute, he replaces Sarr. Then, later on down the line at the 60th minute, he replaces Sarr. Then maybe at halftime, he replaces Sarr. And then, we just go from there. I don't know. Just either of those two strategies, I think, would be my assessment. So, because you are right. I mean, Bentancur ultimately is going to be a huge weapon when he comes back into the team. So,
I had some quick notes on Bournemouth.
yeah.
This was, I mean, despite the 2-0 loss, I actually I was pretty impressed with them.
Yeah, me too.
This was the first game, I think, of the season where I could kind of tell what they were about. It was a little hard for me to figure out, what the game plan was, but something I found very interesting that I'm sure you noticed as well was that, I don't know much about this new guy, the new coach. So I just kind of, in my mind, starting the season, was like, oh, Bournemouth will, sit back, absorb pressure, counterattack. Like, that's what they'll do. But no, like, they really committed bodies forward. That I thought their press was very, very organized.
Yeah.
And I assume that's a mainstay. I mean, I don't think you work on that, get it that organized for it not to stick around, right? And in possession as well, they really pushed their center backs up, played a really high line in possession. So I think Bournemouth, I think you're going to start to see some of their differences when they play some teams that, maybe closer to their skill level a bit. But
I think they could cause some problems for some of the big boys too. I mean, I couldn't, I could see a world where they trip up a few of the big teams, especially at home, where the atmosphere, it's a small stadium, the acoustics are great. So lots, it's pretty loud in there.
I mean, we saw him against Liverpool getting on the board first.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, through a guy who I want to mention, by the way, Antoine Semenyo, who I've been extremely impressed with. I mean, he's the forefront of that press that Reese mentioned, and just excellent positional play, excellent work, cutting off passing lanes, and I think he had the most shots of any player in the game. Not all of them were on target, but he's definitely generating chances, and he will get goals this season. So, yeah, really, really handy player, I think. Definitely caused Spurs some trouble. So, Reese, I know you also might have had something to mention about the Richarlison issue, as we talked about last week, and we mentioned it today in the Twitter chat as well, that Brennan Johnson looks like he's on the verge of coming in. So I was curious to see what you think, A, about Richarlison, and B, about the future of the front three.
Yeah, Richarlison's main issue right now is entirely confidence based.
Yeah,
because he is now having to fill the shoes of Harry Kane after having a very lackluster season and now getting off to a rough start. This game particularly, he was very bad. Capped it off with, just kind of lashing out, getting a yellow and getting immediately subbed off, which I think, goes back to what you were saying about the timing of subs. I think that was, it was like he was noticeably not playing well. And it's like, as soon as I kind of was vocal about it, Postecoglou subbed him out. So
yeah, I
think that was definitely something that was, impressive on his part. But yeah, Richarlison, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he fully fits the tactics that Postecoglou wants to implement as well, which you mentioned last week. And I was trying to think of, one, why does he not fit? And two, why are you looking at Brennan Johnson, who I noted probably plays better on the wing anyway? And that actually got me thinking, going back to my roots as the master of shapes and the fluidity man, of maybe what you need. You've kind of Kane was a striker, like that's what he was, right? Richarlison, you would say he's a striker. He can be played on the wing, but we've talked about last season as well. Like when he played on the wing, he just didn't look great. So to go from Kane, who is a striker, to now you're in this tactical system where everyone is attacking, literally the entire team. I talked about Pedro Porro last week playing as an advanced 8 in some contexts. maybe what you need is not a out and out striker, but someone like Brennan Johnson who can deputize competently at both winger and striker, so that because he's playing along Son, who can do the same thing. So they are just kind of moving around each other, fluid front three in that aspect. But additionally, I think when you have everyone attacking, you don't have to rely on one guy to finish. You just kind of generate enough chances that something will go in. So when you get a guy who's more creative minded, like Brennan Johnson, I think that would definitely fit the system more than Richarlison profile.
Yeah, agreed completely. Nothing to add. I think it's a pretty comprehensive breakdown of the scenario. So let's stick with you, Reese, as we move on to Arsenal's 2-2 draw with Fulham. Now, I did have a question for you, actually, and maybe you don't want to jump straight into this, but on Twitter or very legitimate platform x.com, you expressed your frustration at the referees.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of don't know exactly what you're referring to, and I was going to ask you to expand upon that.
It wasn't like a specific instance, because I even said this to Ethan, because we went and like grabbed breakfast after the game. We were just talking about it, and I was like, it's crazy that in this game where we were awarded a penalty and Fulham had a player sent off, like we benefited from the refs, but I just noticed the referees making some questionable calls, like to the point where it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Like it wasn't really anything specific that turned the tide of the game. It was just something getting on my nerves that made me really mad. Like I don't want to claim we lost the game because of the refs, because we didn't. I am just getting sick and tired of the standard of refereeing in the Premier League, because there was just call after call where, and for both teams, where players are just getting bundled over and they're just not saying anything. I get wanting to play on. I also get that, players are trying to make the most out of stuff, but there was just a lot of instances in this game that were like adding up to the point of, frustration a little bit. But yeah, I think me tweeting about it was definitely partially from me being mad that we didn't win this game. But yeah, it was more just a standard of refereeing than anything else.
And I think it's valid, because it seems to happen like every week now. Like there's no week where we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Also hard.
And now we have this. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Also like hard to avoid with just like how it's not objective, but that like the field is so wide and there's so little. Like at least like in American football, or like we compare it to like rugby first, where like everything is happening at one point. Like yes, everything's happening at one point. Not everyone is focused on that one point. It's much more spread out.
Yeah.
American football, there's 7 referees, and all of them are responsible for watching everything. Versus you only have 3 you effectively only have 3. Where I think yes, that's fundamental to the game, but maybe it's something that does need to be looked at.
Yeah, I think also the Mike Dean stuff was fresh in my mind too. So it's just like the whole validity of the refereeing institution.
The entire system is under question now.
Yeah.
And the idea, by the way, I don't want to spend too much time on the Mike Dean stuff, but the PGMOL statement coming out that it's like any insinuation that the referees would dare not overturn something based on their fraternity with each other is just purely ludicrous. And it's like, you literally have an ex-referee coming out and saying that. So are you calling him a liar? Like, what's just insanity, insane delusion from the PGMOL.
It's also like a group of people where it's like, I do not entirely, with all of the slander they get, I do not entirely blame them for sticking up for each other at times. We're like slightly different scenario, but just like in a general thing, like they're going to stick with each other, because like if one of them says, oh yeah, we fucked up, now you have like the Mike Dean thing where it's like getting slightly out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just kind of my referee soapbox. I do have some thoughts on the game, which are actually quite contrary to what I was saying about the refs. I think Arsenal fans as a whole, including maybe myself in lieu of my post-game reactions on Twitter, need to calm down a little bit. Because the reality of this game is, and Arteta said it himself, we actually played much better in this game mostly compared to the reverse fixture last year, especially when you just look at XG. I think it's like we had 3.08 or something close to that in this game. Last year was like 2 point something. Last year Fulham had 1 point something. This year they had 0.5 something. So the main issue is that we dropped points in this game through individual error, which a lot of people have been quick to blame Ramsdale, which I think there is some question about his position, but the issue is that we were in the buildup and he has been instructed in the buildup to go out of his box and push forward. And unfortunately, the era is Saka's, and he has enough merit stored up in the bank that he gets a pass. And I think that's why a lot of fans are turning to Ramsdale instead, because they don't want to criticize Saka. But, it happens. We come back, it's 2-1. We did a good job. We controlled the game. Then we give up a cheap corner. And I think this one for sure, if Arsenal fans want to critique, we got to look at the corner, because this is absolutely something we can control. The mistake, it's just something that happens. And it's like, you got to move on. This corner, it was really cheap to give away. Not only to give away the corner in the first place, I think someone just really booted it out when they probably could have cleared that field. I don't remember who it was, but then for Paulinho to actually get the ball to feet, I don't know how that happened. I think it went past 3 Arsenal players that probably
And none of them jumped.
Actually, I'll tell you why I think it happened is that we've stopped playing Gabriel, which I understand because he is mistake prone, but he was our aerial presence. Like he was the guy. I'll be very interested to see with Zinchenko coming back into the side whether or not we move Ben White back out wide and stick Gabriel back in and do the same back four we were playing last year. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Arteta's going to stick with Partey at right back, which at this point I actually think I'm okay with, at least for a couple more games. I didn't hate it. And I think especially with Zinchenko, it looks much better. I don't think the issue is on the right side. I definitely think it's on the left for now. And in this game and in the Palace game, when Zinchenko has come on, it's like we look so much improved, which in and of itself is an issue. We can't be relying on this one guy. I think Timber was the solution. He's injured now. So, but yeah, I'm okay with Partey at right back. So yeah, Arsenal fans need to calm down. It's the 3rd game of the season and we drop points to Fulham. They're a decent team, but we didn't even lose the game. We still got a point out of it. That you're out of your mind if you think some of the other teams around us aren't going to drop random points here and there. So I think it's okay for now. If we get in April, March, May, we're dropping points like that, it's a little more suspect, but just calm down. The other thought I had was with Havertz. I think he's receiving a lot of criticism online right now, which some of it is valid. He didn't have a great game, but I think a lot of it is just kind of what's the phrase? Blame deflection. What's it called? What's the phrase?
Scapegoating?
Yeah, scapegoating a little bit. I think the issues were not entirely on Havertz for sure. I think a lot of people are quick to say it as well because Fabio Vieira comes in and he looked much better than Havertz, which I think, if anything, it's a good point for Vieira. This
It's
was
a statement
without
game
a doubt.
for him.
This was without a doubt his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. And it's not close. So I don't think the Havertz experiment is over. I think he has bright spots that are only going to get better. I mean, he's only been in this side for 3 games now. So again, that's something else that's just going to take some time. It's also sorry, you go ahead.
The bad thing that is allowing them to pile on is that one video of where he gets the layoff.
Yeah.
I don't remember who, and he literally it's fairly obvious that he is trying to make a run down the field and he passes it behind where he even
the link up with Martinelli has not been there for sure. That's gonna need to improve. And that's something Vieira has. Vieira and Martinelli are best friends. So they have that both on the pitch and off the pitch. They have this link up. So I think maybe Vieira has earned a start against United because he just played that well. I definitely don't think it's over for Havertz. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are already screaming their heads off a lot of rival fans, mostly Chelsea and United, they're like, oh, he's crap. They already want to sell him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like Vieira played better. He'll probably start next game. Havertz will play, rotational games. He'll eventually get a good game there. He'll start in the Prem and then we're back, right? I think it's just something that's going to take time, and I'm not really worried about it.
Well, the one thing I'll caveat all this with, by the way, is that like coaching is a real thing. So like, yeah, Havertz right now may not be a perfect fit for the role, but Arteta can work with him and develop him. And, he's still young enough that he's quite malleable, at least tactically. So over time, as he gets more training sessions and more, game time, even if it isn't a rotation, kind of perspective, then it's Arteta can coach him and mold him into that role. Yeah. I did write down like right now, to me, he's just not an advanced 8, like because he doesn't have at least maybe the mental fortitude or maybe the technical fortitude. I'm not sure which, to receive the ball under pressure and distribute effectively. Like one of the best things about Odegaard is the fact that like 3 people will be marking him all at the same time and he still manages to find the pass or like still manages to find the run. And for me, I think Havertz in his best roles has been someone who's something of a conduit to a break rather than a sort of force of possession. And I think so that's going to take some serious coaching on Arteta's part. I think, he can do it, but I think it's a gamble, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not it pans out.
There will be plenty of games with the Champions League edition that actually matter and will actually give Havertz a chance to develop against real teams and not just like Tranmere in round 3 of the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Positionally as well, it's like everybody's got to remember that although he has played as a cam before and played in the midfield, realistically, he has not played in the midfield in a couple of years because his entire time spent at Chelsea, he was playing as a 9. And I think you can see it, in the few spells he's spent, when we were making some substitutes and Havertz has gone into 9, played hold up play, that kind of stuff. That's when he's looked his best so far for us, which I don't think is going to be an indicator. Like, I don't think Arteta is going to give up on this experiment for sure. But I think, I think the one good thing I see is that I think we absolutely can experiment, because I was worried, if the experiment fails, we don't have a Xhaka replacement. But now that Vieira is suddenly, and I've been criticizing Vieira since his first season, I just didn't think he was developed enough. I didn't think he was bad. I just thought he needed some time. He's really coming to his own with this game. We'll see if it continues or if it's a one-off. I think, we also have Smith Rowe. I don't think his story is over for us. I think he'll feature. So I think we have options. So if the Havertz experiment fails, it's not the end of the world, but I'm still holding out hope. And I think, again, the general message, just calm down.
It would be wild to say like Smith Rowe's stint is over, because it's not like he was bad. He was just, you had better players, and there were better players that like when he came back, like it didn't make sense to replace him. So
yeah. As far as Fulham, I only have one note noted down, and I thought generally, despite the result, they didn't offer very much, and so maybe this is just me being salty for the result, but I'm definitely going to look into their game against y'all tomorrow, and their future games, and see if maybe that was something for real, or if it's if the Mitrovic being gone gambit is affecting them.
They're also announcing Gaston tomorrow for like 13 million, which is insane.
You should have been all over that.
Everyone. I mean, like, I would say anyone like that would normally be like 20 through 8 should have been all over that for 13 to 18 million pounds. Like, but yeah.
Anyway, I talked a lot about Arsenal, but that's all I've got.
Yeah, let's move on to Ethan now. We've got Brentford at home. Maybe we'll feel that they let it get away from them, but it's a 1-1 draw with Palace. And Ethan, I'm curious to see your thoughts on the game as a whole.
Yeah, I won't go into much about it. Brentford literally tweeted out death, taxes, and drawing against Palace, because that's the only result that has happened between us since they got promoted. Kevin Schott opened the scoring for them. He looked good. obviously the area that I thought was going to be an issue was the issue, and that was Joel Ward being, dominated the whole game. And so that's just something we're going to have to get used to this season because we still have not signed a replacement. I think we got very lucky with Anderson scoring a really weird goal. I don't know if y'all saw it, but he basically just kind of like tapped it in between the goalkeeper's legs, and it was just weird. But I mean, I'll take it. I feel like I'm saying the same thing every week, but it's getting to the point where, every other part of our game is pretty solid. And in some ways, I would say it's great, like our midfield and our center back pairing, but we just can't get anything going with our attack right now. And it's getting to the point, and this is something that I've noticed recently, is that in our absence of Zaha being gone now, teams are starting to do what they did with him to Eze. So now he's not getting a chance to create as much as he has known to with Zaha being there. And the annoying thing is that when Zaha would get, crowded out like he would, now Eze, or he would have players like Eze and Elise to help him out there, and that's how we would create a lot of our chances. We're never getting to the point where Eze is to rely on Edouard and Ayew to do a lot of that, like Zaha had to deal with. So it's just not the same, and the attack is kind of decreased because of that. The quality is not as good. So I'm really hoping that we can sign some more players in these next few days before the window closes. And I have to call out some of the people on social media being really stupid because, obviously everyone at the club or a fan of the club wants to sign players. It's something that we've been needing for a while. But, every time we're linked with somebody, they're all like, oh, we shouldn't get him. He's shit. I'm like, right now we're playing a utility player who started off as a defender in our attack, and he's become a passenger every game. Signing someone, obviously I don't know how true this one was, but there's been a link to Julian Draxler from PSG. He would be so much of an improvement on Schlupp. But they just forget that every time that Schlupp is playing left wing right now. And so it's frustrating, and they're being very picky, and it's just like anything would be an upgrade. We shouldn't be having these players who, have filled in for left back, filled in for midfielder, be in our attack. Because obviously, he's been known to come up with a goal, but in these games, it's like he's been watching. I forget he's on the pitch. And it also goes for the fact that we have no one on the bench. And they're all talking about, oh, Lucio will be back soon and França will be back soon. It's like, we don't know that. The club has not said when they will be back. So it's like, we need players now in this run of games that, like, we've got teams that are around us that we should be getting points from. So I don't know. It's very annoying. I want these players who are injured to come back and do great, but it's like we need to. It's a lot of forward thinking right now, and it's annoying. We need stuff to happen now.
Is there anyone else healthy in the squad that you think could fill in better than Ayew and Schlupp are right now?
I think Ayew's been pretty decent. I mean, we really don't have too many players that like can make an immediate impact different from Schlupp. I mean, we have a Hamada, who I think he looks great. It's just, he's not, I think he's very pacey. He just doesn't have that much attacking quality. We have Raksaki, who's been great in the championship, but the transition to Premier League has been very much a struggle for him. So we're lacking a lot of bodies. And Roy even said today that we're 3 first team members short of where we should be. So it's very frustrating right now.
And you're fixing that by signing a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Right. And Dean Henderson, great goalkeeper. I think he's probably a little bit better than Johnston and younger, but I think that's so weird, man. It's so weird. Like, that is like one of the least of our concerns right now.
I did see on Twitter, HLTCO, famous Palace fan and generally syndicated opinion, stated that, like, he thinks there's no way the club would blow such a big portion of the budget on a goalkeeper if they didn't have something else in the pipeline. So you would hope that the club would make the right decision and come through with a couple more signings. But
yeah, well, I would hope that'd be the case. But then again, it is shown over the years that our board is really stupid. So, we'll see what happens. Hopefully next podcast I can wax on about who we signed and whatnot and how good they were. But It's not looking too good right now. And the fact about it is that, we have been able to pull off deals within the last few days, and a lot of them have been, great. Like I think we pulled off the Mamadou Sakho one like right at the end when we signed him on a permanent, and then Batshuayi ended up changing our season in the last day of the winter transfer window a long time ago. But we've had so much time to be making these moves. I don't know why we leave it so late.
I wrote down something in my notes that I was curious to see if you noticed, and that's a tactical bright spot, in my opinion, for Roy that I was not expecting, which I think if França is injured long term, maybe it's something to kind of forget about. But if it's maybe soon, I think maybe get excited about the attack, because I was thinking about this and it got me excited. Is that obviously Schlupp playing on the wing right now, but we know Ezzy has played on the wing before and he likes to drift out. And something I noticed is, and Schlupp has played and has deputized in midfield. Something I noticed is them kind of playing fluidly and Ezzy just kind of drifting out to midfield when he wants, and Schlupp covering in the midfield as well. Or I'm sorry, Ezzy's drifting out wide and Schlupp covering in the midfield. And that got me thinking, because, I had noted França was a cam, which I was corrected. He is a winger. And I was looking into it, and I talked with Ethan as well. He played cam for a while and then played winger for primarily the season leading up to when y'all signed him. And y'all signed him to be a winger. But I was thinking, and I was like, well, if he's playing out on the wing and Ezzy and him are doing this fluid thing where they're dropping in and swapping positions, it's kind of beneficial, to have someone attacking minded who can play cam as well. And I was thinking about that fluid thing, and I was curious to know if you noticed it or if it's just a byproduct of Ezzy being forced to play out wide for so long.
That's a great point. The thing about it is that Roy, for the longest time when we did sign Eze at first, was just making him play out wide. It worked sometimes. I think he does better in the middle. I think when França does come back, it'll be interesting to see how they link up. I'm hoping it's great. But yeah, I think mainly when he did play out wide, it was not something that we all enjoyed watching, because it's obviously he does better in the middle. So
let's we might have to, in the interest of time, we might have to speed a little bit through these next two games. Don't want the run time to go on too long. So let's go Brighton 1, West Ham 3. I want one big takeaway from each of you. Yeah, Ethan finally gets to point and laugh at Brighton. We've been waxing on so much about them this season. They finally lose a game. My big takeaway from this is going to be the fact that Brighton, constantly are trying to bait the press, constantly, dangling the ball out in front of teams like a carrot on a stick type thing. And teams are consistently falling for it and allowing Brighton to catch them in the counter press. David Moyes essentially told him to get bent and had his team sit in and lay low, mid to low block the entire game, exploit chances on the break, and it worked. So that's my big takeaway from this game, is that other teams could take notes about that against Brighton.
Yeah, very similar to you. I now know exactly why they signed Ward-Prowse. I thought previously it was just for set piece production, but when you're playing this style where you're just sitting back and absorbing pressure, and then the plan is to counterattack with, these players profile so well for counterattacking, and that's Antonio, Jared Bowen, Benrahma, Paqueta. They were fantastic in their counterattack. And when you add Ward-Prowse into that, who is just able to, with deadly accuracy, ping long balls, it's like a set piece, right? It's something very rehearsed. And if this is how they're going to play for the rest of the season, I think it's going to work, and we're going to be embarrassed for saying they were going to go down.
I pulled Everton out of the relegation zone to put them in it.
I think I pulled Wolves out. Yeah. The
I
other
mean,
thing, real quick, I had for Brighton is that they are committing so hard to the possession buildup, and which is great. They look good when they do it, but they have no other tricks up their sleeve. They need to add some variability to the attack, because they just got completely shut down, but didn't have anything to change.
I think similarly that I think this taught us a lot about the manager, that David Moyes, once he gets the players that he wants to play his style, he actually like he's shown spots of this here and there, but he can like when they play the way and have the ability to play the way he wants them to, and once he figures it out, he's a pretty good tactician of figuring out the other team. And the other one is I think the Zebri might be a little too eyes.
Deservy.
I know. I think he might be a little too stubborn in the way he plays, and it has, at least for the first couple games, has shown that he has a bit of a one-track mind with how he wants his team to play. And I'm curious how that's going to pan out as the season goes.
I'm just laughing about the Zebri. And I was thinking about Yaniak Balassi at the same time. Couldn't get it out of my head. Ethan, any points on Brighton West Ham?
I mean, basically everything that y'all had already said, but I was really impressed with Areola. I thought he made a ton of great saves. Josh,
come on, man.
Yeah, he was making plenty of saves. And I just thought he was great. I think, they've had Fabianski on the books for so long, and he's been great. But I think, this will be a good switch for them now because he's very young and obviously he's got the talent.
Liverpool with a huge turnaround win over Newcastle at St. James's Park. Incredible stuff. The substitution of Darwin Nunez changed the game, scored both goals, including a last-minute winner. Josh's pick for surprise of the season, if I remember correctly.
And a yellow card, which was very Darwin Nunez. So.
Yeah, sort of a classic performance by him. My note about this game is actually going to be about Newcastle because I thought the game management and substitutions by Eddie Howe were very bizarre. I felt like taking off Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali at the same time, both of whom were two of the best players on the pitch, was very strange when Newcastle were losing momentum. And then later on, after Liverpool score the first goal and tensions are high, I mean, Liverpool were pressuring. There was, lots of anxiousness in the ground.
And they were a man down.
And Liverpool were a man down, yes. And for some reason, he brings off Joe Linton, who's notably hardworking, workmanlike in the midfield, and brings on a youngster into a high-pressure situation. Now, Elliot Anderson's a great technician and a great prospect going forward, but why bring him on into such a high-pressure situation? I don't know. And then, of course, Klopp's substitution pays off in an extreme way with Darwin Nunez scoring both goals. So that's my big takeaway is the substitutions won and lost the games for both teams, respectively.
It must be big that Newcastle failed to abuse Trent's defense like they did for the first goal. Like the first goal was, or the only goal, I guess, was a Trent mistake, which is no news to anyone for a defensive mistake. But they didn't keep going at it. Like if you're going to go down one side versus the other, like why would you choose Andrew Robertson's side?
Yeah, and Trent was booked in like the second minute.
Yeah, so like just send as much as you can down the left. Yeah. Yes. No, down the right side. Yes.
Newcastle's left, Liverpool's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just send everything down the left side, and especially like Gordon, the Harvey Barnes substitution should have been early because like Anthony Gordon, like he obviously got the goal, but has once again looked shaky this season. Just Harvey Barnes cutting inside on Trent for 40 minutes would have been dangerous, but that's not what they didn't have any. They didn't not have any attack, but they just looked very slow going forward and no urgency. Like they were so content being a goal up and a man up.
Yeah. I thought Newcastle had the chances to kill the game. They just weren't clinical enough. And I think also Allison had one or two outstanding, phenomenal saves that absolutely not only saved the game for them, but changed the momentum. Because then you get towards the end of the game, Newcastle have failed to score on 10-man team for like 60 minutes of the game, right? When was the red card? Like 20th minute, something like that.
23rd or 24th, yeah.
Yeah, so the majority of the game is spent playing against a team down in man, and they have not scored because they scored on 11 men, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
they scored before the red card. So
Yeah. So they weren't able to score on 10 men, which I know is sometimes a struggle, but they've had the whole game to do it. So I think that's adding up to a mental thing. And by the end of it, they just looked under the pressure of not having extended that lead. And the momentum definitely shifted. And Nunez, the difference was clinicality, because Newcastle should have killed the game, could have killed the game. Nunez has 2 chances and takes them both. So
Which
that's
is
all it
not
was.
something he would have done last year.
For sure.
no, huge
Yeah.
confidence booster for him for sure. Ethan, a final point from you.
Yeah, I still think Newcastle's a great team. I think, in situations where they're playing teams around them, they will do a lot better than they did this time. I think the big thing right now is that they're still building the squad up. I think a lot of their subs they're decent players, but I think the quality between the starters and the bench is very astronomical still. So when you're bringing on these players like Longstaff and Elliot Anderson's a great player, but just when you bring him into a game against a quality Liverpool side, it's still going to be difficult to maintain that same back and forth.
Absolutely right. Now, Josh, I'm going to come to you as well for a little bit of Leicester watch because they were 2-1 winners away to Rotherham on the weekend, and the only team in the championship to be 4-0-0 at this juncture.
The
So
only
I
team
think,
has 4 winners after the 70th minute.
but 3 points is 3 points. I mean,
I am a little nervous going forward. Mavididi, when he has scored, has been very clinical, but has shown signs of punting it right at the keeper, which I'm a little nervous about. But on the other side of the wing, McAteer was great. A debut brace, and the winner, an insane ball from Callum Doyle to put it right on his boot, and an insane finish. I was really happy with him. Hopefully he comes out and shows a little bit, continues to show. We have Tranmere tomorrow, which I'm going to be really interested to see what the squad looks like, and who all plays with some of the players we have leaving. But overall, we played good. We came off in the second half a little bit off the foot, or not really, we played about the same tempo, but Rotherham were pressing out of their minds.
I still think you said it wrong.
Oh, I did, but first,
Rotherham.
I think that's what I said.
You said Rotherham.
There's a D in there, isn't there?
no, there's no D.
Oh, Rotherham. I'm stupid. And I don't remember what train of thought. They were just pressing, and we just weren't taking advantage of it. But them came back and just kept pressing hard and ended up scoring. And I was very happy with how it ended. I just would like us to look a little bit better when we win, because we have a pretty tough stretch of league games coming up. We have hold on. We have Hull, which I'm not too worried about, but then we have Southampton, Norwich, Bristol, and Blackburn, which is 4 pretty tough games. I imagine we're going to drop points in at least one of those. But otherwise, we're looking decent so far.
Josh, let's stick with you for Jersey of the Week if you have got one. I know you kind of were in the middle of unpacking a lot of them, so.
I do not. We have not had a chance to go to Sam's yet. It's like a 40-minute drive, and we need a large amount of hangers.
Here goes the bucket hat. He's getting ready.
I look like a baby.
So maybe.
The Heisenberg hat.
Yeah, literally.
It looks like a flat bill with the headphones on.
Yeah, it kind of does. Say my name.
So, Gage, why did you say the Cure earlier? Was it just random, or?
Dude, I swear it was completely random. I was literally just listening to him today, and I was like, "Oh, let's go." I was like, "I bet Ethan would enjoy the Cure, so let's throw it in the intro." Like,
Well, it's funny that you said that, because that is today's album. So recently I picked Disintegration. It's one of their most well-known albums. It's a great album. I picked them because I had recently been thinking about all the concerts I had been to, because I think I went to my first concert maybe 2020 or 2021. It was one of those years. But I'd never been too big into concerts, but I started going, and I think I've been to about 9 now. And one of my good memories is getting a cheap ticket to The Cure's recent concert. And we went after, I went with my good friend Jacob, who also loves The Cure, right after our graduation of college. And we didn't think we were going to be able to go, but there were some lawn seats available. And so I got this bucket hat. So yeah, and they're awesome. Great guitar sound, great vocals, great band.
Funny anecdote real quick. The other day I had a TikTok out open, and the caption was something like, play this in front of the Cure fan and see how they react. And before I had even finished reading the caption, because the audio, of course, is a Cure song. Before I had finished reading it, Ethan is like, "The Cure!" Like he sits up and like talked about it before I'd even finished reading it. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. And Jacob, our roommate Jacob, did the same thing.
He did, yeah.
It's an obsession.
Why? What is the deal? Why are we all on the wavelength with The Cure right now? That's insane.
I don't know.
They're just existing in our hive mind.
I don't know what the issue is, but I know The Cure.
Already are. Okay, on that note, we are ending the show. So thank you everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you're enjoying the Premier League. We hope you enjoyed Ethan as well. Ethan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for picking out The Cure. I did enjoy that. And thank you for hosting.
Reese as well. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for hosting.
Oh,
you're the host, man.
You shouldn't have. And Josh as well. Josh, thanks for coming by again.
Well, thanks for helping with my pronunciation. We're slowly getting there.
We're working on
it. And thanks to you, the listener. Of course, I already kind of said most of the stuff that I usually say in the outro before I did the goodbyes to everyone. So we'll just end it there. We'll say it's a goodbye from us.